The storm rolled over the plains like an angry beast, swallowing the horizon in gray dust and rain. By the time Eliza reached the lone cabin on the ridge, her dress was torn, her bonnet soaked, and her heart, fragile as a bird, beat more with fear than exhaustion. She had nowhere else to go. The wagon that brought her west had broken a wheel 3 days before. The driver abandoned her when she could no longer pay. All she had left was a letter from a man she'd never met, a rancher named Cole Maddox. When the door swung open, a tall man filled the frame. He wasn't what she'd imagined. The letter had spoken of a widower needing a wife, someone kind, quiet, willing to help him rebuild a home. But the man before her looked carved from the land itself, broad-shouldered, sleeves rolled to the elbow, jaw set like stone. His dark eyes studied her a moment before softening. "You must be Eliza," he said, voice low and steady. "You're late." "The storm," she stammered, clutching her shawl. I got lost near the river bend." He nodded and stepped aside. "Get in before you freeze." Inside, warmth wrapped around her, the hiss of the hearth, the scent of pine smoke, the glow of amber light on rough-hewn walls. It wasn't much, but it was safe, safer than the endless prairie beyond the door. Cole poured coffee into a tin cup and set it on the table. "Drink, then tell me what happened." Eliza obeyed, trembling as the steam touched her face. She didn't know where to begin. How could she explain she'd been running not only from the storm, but from a past that felt colder than any rain? Finally she whispered, "I'm sorry. I don't know how to be what you want. I don't know how to be a wife." Silence filled the cabin. Cole leaned forward, elbows on the table, eyes fixed on the fire. "I didn't ask for someone who already knew how," he said. "Just someone willing to learn." Her breath caught. She'd expected judgment, maybe anger. Instead, there was patience, real, quiet patience. It startled her more than a shout ever could. He rose, fetched a folded blanket. "You can sleep here tonight," he said, nodding toward the small bed. "We'll figure out the rest come morning." "But—" "I'll take the chair," he interrupted gently. "I'm not a man who takes what's not freely given." Relief and shame tangled in her chest. "Thank you," she whispered. As he turned to the fire, the wind howled against the cabin walls. She watched his shoulders move, steady, unhurried, strong. Something about his silence made her feel safe. When he finally sat again, he spoke without looking at her. "I lost my wife 3 winters ago. Thought I'd live out the rest of my years alone. But a man can't run a ranch and his ghosts at the same time. So I wrote that letter." Eliza said nothing. Her voice was caught behind her ribs. "You don't owe me anything," he added softly. "Not until you decide this life is what you want." No one had ever said such words to her. All her life, others decided for her, her father, her fate, the weather. Yet here was a man offering her choice. "I don't know what I want," she admitted. "Only that I'm tired of being afraid." "Then start there," he said. The wind eased to a whisper. Firelight flickered across the room. And for the first time in months, Eliza felt her heartbeat steady. She turned toward the flames and murmured, "Maybe I can learn." And as the night deepened, hope, small and fragile, took root in her chest. Morning broke clear and golden. Eliza woke to the smell of coffee and the soft creak of boots on the porch. For a moment she forgot where she was. Then she saw the cabin walls, the coat by the door, and remembered she was safe. Cole stood outside by the fence, hat pulled low, sunlight washing over him. He glanced back as she stepped into the morning air. "Coffee's fresh," he said. "Thank you," she murmured, her voice steadier now. "I've got to ride south, check fences," he said, tightening a saddle strap. "You'll be all right here?" "I think so." "If you're staying," he added, "get to know the place. There's a creek behind the barn, chickens that need feeding. You don't have to ask permission for every step. This is your home too, if you want it to be." Those last words lingered, "if you want it to be." They felt like sunlight breaking through cloud. When he rode out, the land seemed to breathe again. Eliza explored slowly, taking in every sound and scent. The cluck of hens, the rustle of grass, the glint of distant water. For the first time in memory, she wasn't invisible. She fed the chickens, swept the porch, folded the blanket she'd used. Simple tasks, but they steadied her hands and her heart. By noon, Cole returned, dust on his boots and sweat at his collar. He surveyed the yard and gave a small nod. "You've been busy." "I didn't want to sit idle," she said with a shy smile. "I idle easy," he said, smiling back, "but not for long. You'll fit in fine." Lunch was quiet, bread, beans, and easy silence. But it wasn't the awkward quiet of strangers. It was the kind that felt comfortable, like two souls finding the same rhythm. That evening, as the sun slid behind the hills, Eliza sat by the window while Cole mended a harness. His hands were rough but careful, his eyes steady on the task. Finally, she asked, "Why did you choose me?" He didn't look up right away. "Because you answered." She blinked, uncertain what he meant. "I wrote 3 letters," he said. "Only one came back. Yours. You said you didn't have much, but you could try. That was enough." "I thought you wanted someone better," she said softly. "Someone who knows how to keep a home." He leaned back, studying her face. "Eliza, I don't need someone who knows everything. I need someone who doesn't quit when it gets hard. The land teaches patience. Love's not much different." Her eyes stung. For so long she'd believed she wasn't enough, too plain, too unsure. Yet here was a man telling her that trying was enough. Outside, the evening wind turned gentle, carrying the scent of pine and smoke. Inside, the quiet between them grew warm. Cole worked. Eliza mended a tear in her dress. Every now and then their eyes met, and something unspoken passed between them. Respect, perhaps hope. The cabin no longer felt like two strangers waiting out a storm. It felt like the start of belonging. When she finished sewing, she spoke again, voice barely above the fire's crackle. "I've been afraid all my life, afraid of saying the wrong thing. Doing the wrong thing." Cole looked up, his expression calm. "And now?" "Now," she smiled faintly. "Maybe I don't have to be." He gave a slow nod. "That's a start." The fire popped softly. Outside, the stars spread wide across the prairie. For the first time since she'd come west, Eliza didn't feel small. She felt part of something, fragile but real. Maybe not love yet, but the seed of it waiting for rain. Later, as Cole banked the fire, she whispered a small prayer, not to any name she knew, but to life itself. For second chances, for quiet strength, for hearts that healed slowly but surely. When she lay down to sleep, she heard the faint creak of his chair. He was still awake, keeping watch. She smiled into her pillow, the warmth in her chest no longer fear but gratitude. In the silence of that little cabin, two souls began to mend the broken edges of their lives, together. Epilogue, a promise in the wind. Weeks later, the hills would bloom green again, and the ranch would echo with laughter. But that night was where everything began, not with a kiss or a vow, but with a promise unspoken to learn to try to love. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more heartfelt Western love stories, tales of courage, healing, and second chances under the wide open sky. Every story here reminds us that no matter how lost we feel, there's always someone and somewhere waiting to teach us how to love again. Subscribe now and join our growing frontier family. Your next favorite story is already saddled and waiting.